The crystal towers of New Harmony burned against the purple sky of Kepler 4-4b. Commander. Lithera watched from her command center as another one of her people's beautiful cities fell to the Vex attack ships. The graceful spires that had taken centuries to grow were now melting under alien weapons fire. Commander, the southern districts have gone silent, reported Communications Officer Veltar, his translucent wings trembling with fear. We estimate 3 million civilians were in that area. Lithara closed her large dark eyes and tried to center herself through meditation, as her people had done for thousands of years when faced with problems. But meditation could not stop the death raining from the sky. Nothing in Zephrian culture had prepared them for this nightmare. The Vex had appeared in their system 6 days ago without warning. Their ships were massive and ugly, like diseased organs floating in space. They had not tried to communicate or negotiate. They simply began destroying everything they could find. First the orbital stations, then the defensive satellites that were built only to watch for asteroids, then the cities themselves. How many escape ships made it off-world? Lithera asked. 47 vessels carrying approximately 200,000 refugees, Veltar replied. But Commander, the Vex ships are hunting them down one by one. Our civilian transports were never built to run from predators. Lithara walked to the great viewing window of her command station. Below, she could see Vex ground forces moving through the streets of what had once been the Garden District. The invaders looked like walking nightmares, tall black creatures with too many claws and teeth. They were methodically hunting down every Zephrian they could find. Her people had never known war. They had never even known violence. Were herbivores who had evolved from gentle herd animals on a world with light gravity and soft breezes. Their idea of conflict was a debate that might last several days until everyone reached agreement. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no concept of fighting back against an enemy. Commander, another officer called out, we are receiving transmission from the Galactic Federation Council. The Helix ambassador wishes to speak with you. The holographic image of Ambassador Quillanon appeared in the center of the command room. The Helix diplomat was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin that changed colors based on emotions. Right now, his skin showed deep blue patterns of sadness and regret. Commander Lithera, the Federation Council has reviewed your request for military assistance, the ambassador said in his musical voice. I regret to inform you that no member species has the capability to respond to your situation. The Vex Collective is too powerful, and your world is too far from Federation space. Lithera felt her heart sink. Ambassador, my people are dying. Surely, someone can help us. The Venturi have offered to accept 10,000 refugees for relocation, Quillanon replied. The Synthoids can provide emergency supplies if you can establish a safe landing zone. But military intervention. Paused, his skin shifting to darker colors. None of our species maintains armed forces capable of fighting the Vex. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephrian command center in stunned silence. Lithera looked around at her officers. These were scientists, engineers, and administrators, not warriors. They had spent their lives building beautiful things and studying the stars. Now they watched helplessly as everything they had created was being destroyed. There must be someone, whispered Engineer Zareth from his station near the back of the room. In all the galaxy, there must be someone who can fight these monsters. Lithera made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Open all communication channels. Broadcast on every frequency we know. Send the signal as far as our transmitters can reach. Commander Veltar asked, confused. What message should we send? A simple one, she replied, moving to the communication console herself. We are dying. Our world burns. Please, someone help us. The message went out across space, carrying with it the coordinates of their system and all the tactical data they had gathered about the Vex forces. It was a desperate cry from a peaceful people who had run out of options, far across the galaxy. On a small blue world orbiting a yellow star, Dr. Helen Carter was working the night shift at the SETI research facility in New Mexico. She'd been monitoring deep space signals for 15 years, always hoping to find proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. Tonight, her equipment picked up something extraordinary. "Paul, you need to see this," she called to her colleague, Dr. Paul Rodriguez, who was sleeping in the break room. "I'm getting a signal from outside the solar system, and it's not natural." Paul stumbled over to her workstation, rubbing his eyes. He was the facility's expert in languages and communication patterns. "What kind of signal? It's complex, structured, definitely artificial." And Paul, "It's repeating the same pattern over and over, like a distress call." Paul sat down at his computer and began running the signal through his analysis programs. After 2 hours of work, he looked up at Helen with wide eyes. "This is incredible. It's definitely a language, but unlike anything in our databases. Mathematical structure suggests it's from a highly advanced civilization. Can you translate it? Give me a few more hours." Paul worked through the night, using pattern recognition software and linguistic theory to break down the alien message. As the sun rose over the New Mexico desert, he finally cracked the code. "Helen, call Admiral Morrison immediately," he said, his voice shaking. "This message is from an alien species under attack. They're asking for help." Admiral Jake Morrison arrived at the SETI facility 3 hours later with a team from Space Defense Command. He was a serious man in his 50s who had spent his career preparing for the day when humanity might encounter other intelligent life. He had not expected that first contact would come in the form of a desperate plea for help. "Play the message." Again he ordered. Paul activated the translation program. The alien words came through the speakers in clear English. "We are dying. Our world burns. Please, someone help us. We are the Zephrian people of the 4th planet of star system you designate, Kepler 442. Hostile forces called the Vex Collective are destroying our civilization. We have no weapons, no military, no way to defend ourselves. If anyone receives this message, please help us. Time is running out." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Somewhere in space, an entire alien civilization was being wiped out while crying for help. "What do we know about this Kepler 442 system?" Morrison asked. Dr. Carter pulled up the astronomical data. "It's about 1,200 light-years from Earth. 4th planet is in the habitable zone with an oxygen-rich atmosphere. Till now, we thought it might have simple life forms, but we never imagined an advanced civilization." "And these Vex?" Morrison asked. Paul played another part of the message. That contained tactical information. "According to the transmission, they're a nomadic species that destroys other civilizations. The Zephrians describe them as having powerful weapons and no interest in communication or negotiation. They seem to exist only to conquer and destroy." Morrison studied the data for a long moment. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. They had built a small fleet of exploration and defense ships, but had never used them in actual combat. The furthest any human ship had traveled was 50 light-years from Earth. Admiral Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, "There's something else. The message mentions that they've contacted something called the Galactic Federation, but no one is coming to help them. According to their data, none of the other species in the galaxy has the military capability to fight the Vex." Morrison looked at the tactical readouts showing the Vex fleet composition. The enemy had dozens of large warships and seemed to be conducting a systematic extermination campaign. Any reasonable military analysis would conclude that getting involved was suicide. But as he read the translation of the Zephrian message again, Morrison felt something stirring in his chest. It was the same feeling that had driven humans to run into burning buildings to save strangers, to throw themselves on grenades to protect their friends, to stand up to bullies even when outnumbered. Somewhere in the darkness of space, peaceful, people were dying while calling for help. For the first time in galactic history, their call was being heard by a species that had evolved on a world where the strong protected the weak, where violence in defense of the innocent was considered noble. "Get me the president," Morrison said. "We need to have a conversation about humanity's first interstellar war." President Lisa Walsh sat in the Oval Office, staring at the translated alien message on her desk. 3 days had passed since Admiral Morrison first brought her the Zephrian distress call. 3 days of heated debates with Congress, emergency, meetings with military leaders, and sleepless nights, wondering if humanity was about to make the biggest mistake in its history. Madam President, said Secretary of Defense Robert Kane, I have to advise against this operation. We're talking about sending our most advanced warship and 300 of our best people to fight an alien force we know nothing about. It could be a disaster. And if we do nothing, Walsh asked, looking around the room at her advisors, we let an entire civilization die while we had the power to help them? General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, spoke up from her seat. Our analysis suggests the Zephrians are telling the truth about their situation. The signal patterns match genuine distress calls, and the tactical data shows they're facing overwhelming force. But, Madam President, we've never fought in space. Against alien technology? Admiral Morrison leaned forward in his chair. With respect, General, we've been preparing for this possibility since we first achieved FTL travel.
Ow.
Our ships were designed for combat, our weapons tested against every scenario we could imagine.
Ow.
The question isn't whether we can fight, it's whether we will. President Walsh stood and walked to the window overlooking the rose garden. She thought about the message that had traveled 1,200 light-years to reach them, peaceful species crying for help while their world burned. Everything she had learned about leadership told her that sometimes the right choice was also the hardest choice. Operation Guardian Angel is authorized, she announced. Admiral Morrison, prepare the Defender for immediate deployment. Rules of engagement are simple. Protect civilian lives and defend yourself against hostile action. 2 hours later, Steve Parker stood on the bridge of the UES Defender as his crew prepared for humanity's first interstellar military mission. The Defender was the pride of Earth's small space fleet, 600 meters long. Armed with kinetic weapons, nuclear missiles, and electromagnetic pulse devices. Her crew of 300 included the best Marines and Navy personnel Earth could provide, Captain, called Lieutenant Commander Amy Jackson from her station. All departments report ready for departure. Dr. Rodriguez is aboard with his linguistic equipment. And Marine Colonel Brooks has his battalion loaded and ready. Parker nodded, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere among those distant lights, aliens were dying while calling for help. In a few hours, the Defender would enter hyperspace and begin the 3-week journey to Kepler-4 for 2B. When they arrived, they would either save a civilization or die trying. Take us out, Helm, Parker ordered. Set course for the Kepler-442 system, maximum hyperspace velocity. Defender's engines powered up with a deep thrumming sound that could be felt throughout the ship. Space around the vessel began to bend and twist as the hyperspace drive activated. In a flash of brilliant light, the ship vanished from Earth's solar system, carrying humanity's hopes across the galaxy. During the long journey through hyperspace, the crew studied everything they could learn about their destination. Dr. Paul Rodriguez worked with the translation computers to better understand Zephrian language and culture. What he discovered both amazed and worried him. Captain, he reported during a briefing in the ship's conference room, the Zephrians are unlike any species we could have imagined. They evolved from herbivorous herd animals on a low-gravity world. Their entire civilization is built around cooperation and peaceful consensus. They literally cannot understand the concept of intentional violence. Lieutenant Commander Jackson pulled up the tactical data on the main screen. What about their technology? Advanced in many ways, Rodriguez replied. Their ships use clean fusion power. Their cities are grown rather than built, and their medical science is centuries ahead of ours. But they have no weapons, no military, no defense systems beyond basic asteroid deflectors. Captain Parker studied the information with growing concern. And these Vex creatures they're fighting? The opposite extreme. From what we can understand from the Zephrian reports, the Vex are a predatory species that exists only to consume and destroy. They travel from system to system, strip mining worlds and hunting other species for food and resources. Major Danny Brooks, commander of the ship's Marine Battalion, shook his head. So we have peaceful plant eaters being hunted by space monsters, and we're the only ones responding to their distress call. That's correct, Major, Rodriguez confirmed. The Galactic Federation apparently consists entirely of peaceful species like the Zephrians. None of them have military forces capable of fighting the Vex. Parker leaned back in his chair, processing. The implications? Humanity was about to make contact with a galactic civilization that had never known war. Earth's violent history, which humans often saw as shameful, might be exactly what was needed to save innocent lives. "What do we know about Vex capabilities?" he asked. Jackson activated another display showing the tactical analysis. Based on the Zephrian sensor data, the Vex fleet includes at least 50 ships ranging from small raiders to massive battleships. Their weapons appear to be energy-based, possibly plasma or particle beams. Their ships are organic in design, suggesting bioengineering technology. Numbers: we estimate between 2 and 3 million Vex warriors total, with approximately 500,000 on the ground and the rest aboard their ships. The room fell quiet as everyone considered the odds. Defender carried 300 personnel against millions of enemies. In any conventional analysis, this would be considered hopeless. "Captain," Dr. Rodriguez said softly, "there's something else." The Zephrians have been monitoring galactic communications, and several other peaceful species are watching this situation. If the Vex succeed here, they may target other Federation worlds. This could be the beginning of a massive extermination campaign. Parker stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the swirling colors of hyperspace. He thought about the message that had started this mission, a simple cry for help from people who had done nothing wrong except be peaceful in a universe that contained predators. "Recommendations?" he asked his officers. Major Brooks was the first to speak. "Sir, the Marines are ready for whatever we find. We've trained for every scenario, including combat in alien environments. There are civilians to protect and enemies to fight. That's what we do." Lieutenant Commander Jackson nodded. "The ship's weapon systems are fully operational. Our kinetic rounds can punch through any armor we've seen in the Zephrian data. And our nuclear arsenal should give us a significant advantage if we need it." Dr. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable but determined. "Captain, I've been thinking about this from a cultural perspective. The Zephrians are going to be shocked by us. We represent everything they've never encountered, a species that evolved through violence and competition. They may be afraid of us almost as much as they are of the Vex." "But they asked for help," Parker pointed out. "Yes, but they were expecting help from other peaceful species. They have no idea what Deathworlders like us are capable of." The term Deathworlder was new to most of the crew, but it made sense. Earth was a harsh planet compared to most worlds that supported life. High gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators, and constant competition for resources had shaped humanity into survivors. While other species had evolved in gentle environments, humans had been forged by adversity. As the days passed, the crew continued their preparations. Marine squads practiced urban combat scenarios. Naval gunners calibrated their weapons for space battles, and engineers worked on contingency plans for every possible situation they might encounter. Dr. Helen Carter, who had joined the mission as a cultural advisor, spent her time analyzing the Galactic Federation's structure. What she found surprised her. "Captain," she reported, "I've been studying the Federation's history from the data the Zephrians provided. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, there has never been a major war. Conflicts are resolved through negotiation and compromise. The idea of one species deliberately exterminating another is so foreign to them that they have no procedures for dealing with it." Which explains why no one is coming to help, Parker realized. Debating what to do while the Zephrians die. They literally cannot comprehend that some problems can only be solved through violence. On the final day of their journey, Captain Parker addressed his crew over the ship's communication system. "In 6 hours, we will drop out of hyperspace in the Kepler 442 system," he announced. "We will be humanity's first ambassadors to the galaxy, but we will also be warriors protecting the innocent. We don't know what we'll find when we arrive, but we know why we're here. Somewhere in this system, peaceful people are dying while calling for help. We are going to answer that call." The crew made their final preparations as the Defender's hyperspace drive began winding down. Weapons were charged, Marines checked. Their equipment and sensor arrays were calibrated for combat operations. The youth Defender moved silently through the outer system of Kepler 442, their sensors scanning for Zephrian survivors. Captain Steve Parker watched the tactical display with growing anger as the scope of the destruction became clear. Dozens of burned-out ships drifted in space, their elegant designs twisted by Vex weapons into metal graves. Captain Lieutenant Commander Amy Jackson reported from her station. I'm detecting 3 Zephrian vessels moving away from the planet at high speed. They appear to be civilian transports loaded with refugees. Any Vex ships pursuing them? 2. Vex raiders closing fast from the planet's north pole. The refugee ships don't stand a chance. Parker didn't hesitate. Helm, intercept course. Maximum speed. Weapons, prepare to engage the Vex ships. The Defender accelerated toward the fleeing refugees, her crew working with the precision that came from years of training. As they closed the distance, the bridge received an unexpected transmission on an open frequency. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Lithera of the Zephrian refugee ship, Crystal Wing. Please identify yourself. Are you another Federation species? Come to help us. Dr. Paul Rodriguez activated the translation systems and responded in carefully pronounced Zephrian. This is Captain Steve Parker of the United Earthship Defender. We received your distress call. We are here to help. There was a long pause before the reply came, filled with confusion and hope. Earth. We do not know this world. What species? Are you? Which Federation member sent you? We are humans, Rodriguez translated Parker's words. We are not members of your Federation. We came because we heard your people calling for help. The Vex Raiders were now close enough to be visible on the main screen. Dark. Twisted ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Their weapons began charging, preparing to destroy the helpless refugee vessels. Target the lead Vex ship, Parker ordered. Fire when ready. The Defender's main kinetic cannon spoke with a voice like thunder. A tungsten rod accelerating at 30% of light speed crossed the distance between ships in microseconds. The Vex Raiders simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact energy. The second Vex ship, apparently realizing it faced an unknown threat, tried to turn and run. A spread of nuclear missiles from the Defender caught it before it could escape. The detonation lit up the space between the stars like a brief new sun. Aboard the Crystal Wing, Commander Lithera stared at her sensor. Displays in shock. The unknown ship had destroyed 2 Vex Raiders in less than 10 seconds, using weapons she had never seen before. Her communications officer, Veltar, was making small crying sounds of distress. Commander, he whispered, what kind of species builds weapons like that? They turned matter into energy. They created suns to destroy their enemies. Lithera activated the communication channel again, her voice shaking. Earthship, we thank you for saving us. But we must ask, what are you? Your weapons are beyond anything we have seen. Captain Parker looked at Dr. Rodriguez, who was already working on the cultural implications of first contact. Tell her we would like to establish communication between our species. Suggest we meet via holographic transmission. A few minutes later, the first meeting between humans and Zephrians took place in the Defender's main conference room. Commander Lithera's holographic image appeared before the human crew. Both sides fell silent in amazement. Lithera stood, nearly 8 feet tall, but looked as delicate as spun glass. Her translucent skin seemed to glow with soft inner light, and gossamer wings stretched behind her like captured moonbeams. Her large dark eyes held intelligence and gentleness that spoke of a species that had never known violence, the Zephrian. Commander looked at Captain Parker and his officers with growing alarm. She could see that these humans were stocky, muscular beings with dense bones and thick skin. Their eyes held a hardness that came from generations of struggle and conflict. You are predators, she said softly, the translation coming through. With a tone of wonder and fear, your entire physiology is designed for violence and survival. Dr. Rodriguez carefully explained human biology and evolutionary history. As he spoke about Earth's high gravity, dangerous wildlife, and competitive environment. Several Zephrians in the background of the transmission fainted from shock. Your world has 3 times our gravity, Lithera said, her voice barely a whisper. Your atmosphere burns with oxygen levels that would kill most species. You consume the flesh of other creatures. You are from what our scientists call a death world, a planet so hostile that only the most aggressive life forms could survive. Lieutenant Commander Jackson stepped forward to explain human military capabilities. When she mentioned concepts like tactical nuclear weapons and orbital bombardment, Lethera had to grip her command chair to remain standing. "You have weaponized the very forces that power our sun," the Zephrian commander said. "You have turned the building blocks of creation into instruments of destruction. How is this possible?" Captain Parker realized that these peaceful aliens had no frame of reference for understanding humanity's violent capabilities. He decided to be direct and honest. "Commander Lethera, we are what we are because our world made us this way. We learned to fight because everything on our planet was trying to kill us. We developed weapons because predators threatened our families. We became warriors because the alternative was extinction. But why did you come here?" Lethera asked. "Why? Risk your lives for strangers? Because that's what we do," Parker replied simply. "When peaceful people call for help against bullies, humans answer, 'Your people will not die,' while we draw breath." The cultural exchange continued for several hours as both species struggled to understand each other. Dr. Rodriguez documented every detail, knowing that this conversation would shape the future of human-alien relations. The Zephrians learned about human concepts like military honor, acceptable losses, and strategic sacrifice. They discovered that humans had spent their entire history fighting against nature, against predators, and sometimes against each other. War was not foreign to humanity. It was woven into their very DNA. The humans, meanwhile, learned about a species that had never known violence. Zephrians had no words for murder, genocide, or terrorism, because these concepts simply didn't exist. In their experience, their idea of conflict resolution involved meditation sessions that could last for days until everyone reached agreement. Commander Parker Lethera said as the meeting continued, "I must be honest with you. We are grateful for your help, but we are also terrified. You represent everything our species has never encountered. You are living weapons, shaped by a world of endless death and violence." "But you asked for help," Parker pointed out gently. "We did," she agreed. "But we expected help from other peaceful species like ourselves. We never imagined that our call would be answered by ... double quotes. She paused, searching for words. "Deathworlders," Dr. Rodriguez supplied. "That's what you call us, isn't it?" Yes, Lethera confirmed. "Species from worlds so hostile that they forge beings capable of unimaginable violence. We have heard legends of such worlds, but we never believed they could produce intelligent life." Major Danny Brooks had been listening to the conversation. With growing impatience, finally, he spoke up. "With all due respect, Commander, we can discuss cultural differences later. Your people are being slaughtered by the Vex. Do you want our help or not?" Lethera looked at the human marine officer and saw something that both frightened and comforted her. Brooks was clearly a warrior, trained for violence and hardened by combat. But his anger was directed at the Vex, not at her people. For all their terrifying capabilities, these humans seemed to genuinely want to protect the innocent. "Yes," she said finally. "We need your help. We have never fought a war, and we don't know how to stop the Vex from killing everyone we love." Captain Parker nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Dr. Rodriguez, coordinate with Commander Lethera to establish a joint command structure. Major Brooks, prepare your Marines for ground operations. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, I want a full tactical analysis of the Vex fleet." As the humans began planning their assault, they intercepted a Vex communication transmission. Dr. Rodriguez's computers translated the alien language, revealing the first words ever heard from humanity's new enemies. "Ground Commander to Fleet Master," the message said. "The prey species has found new protectors. These unknowns destroyed 2 of our raiders with weapons we have never seen. They appear to be another prey species, but their technology suggests otherwise." "Understood," came the reply. "All ships will converge on the unknown vessel. If they interfere with the harvest, they will be destroyed, like all the others." Captain Parker smiled grimly as he heard the translation. The Vex clearly thought they were dealing with just another peaceful species that could be easily destroyed. They had no idea they were about to face creatures forged in the fires of a death world. "Commander Lethera," he said, I want you to send a message to any other Zephrian survivors. Tell them that help has arrived. Tell them that the humans are here, and we're going to show these Vex what happens when predators meet apex predators." Zephrian commander looked at the determined faces of the human crew and felt something she had never experienced before: hope mixed with awe and terror. Deep in the Vex command ship, War Master Gorthak studied the debris of his destroyed raiders with growing confusion. In 300 years of conquest, he had never lost ships to prey species. The Vex had wiped out dozens of civilizations across the galaxy, and none had ever fought back effectively. "What species did this?" he demanded from his intelligence officer, a smaller Vex with scars covering its black carapace. "Unknown, War Master. The weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The attackers used kinetic projectiles, moving at impossible speeds, followed by fusion explosives. Their ship appears to be made of metal alloys we have never encountered." Gorthak's mandibles clicked with irritation. The Vex had conquered the galaxy because they understood that all civilized species were weak. They had evolved on gentle worlds where cooperation was more valuable than competition. They built art and science instead of weapons. When the Vex came to harvest them, they either ran or died. "Send scouts to investigate this new ship," the War Master ordered. "If another prey species thinks they can protect the Zephrians, we will show them the price of interfering with the collective." 3 Vex destroyers moved toward the position where the UES Defender waited with the Zephrian refugees. Each ship was twice the size of the human vessel. Armed with bioplasma weapons that could melt through any armor the Vex had previously encountered, Captain Steve Parker watched the approaching enemy ships on his tactical display. "Time to intercept?" "Minutes, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Jackson. "The Vex ships are moving in a standard attack formation. You seem to think they're dealing with another helpless prey species." Parker opened a channel to Commander Lethera aboard the Crystal Wing. "Commander, I need your ships to move to a safe distance. This is about to get very dangerous." Captain Parker Lethera's voice came through the translator. "Filled with worry, there are 3 of them, and only one of you. Perhaps we should retreat to Federation space and ask for more help." "Commander, with respect, we didn't travel 1,200 light-years to run away from a fight. These Vex are about to learn something the rest of the galaxy apparently never taught them." Dr. Paul Rodriguez, monitoring the conversation, could hear the confusion in Lethera's reply. "What lesson is that?" "That humans protect our own," Parker said simply. "And as of today, your people are our own." The first Vex destroyer opened fire at maximum range, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the Defender. Captain Parker calmly ordered evasive maneuvers, and the human ship danced between the energy beams with precision that shocked the Zephrian observers. "How are they moving like that?" Eltar whispered aboard the Crystal Wing. "Their ship is so heavy, but it moves like it weighs nothing." Commander Lethera watched in amazement as the human vessel performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. She was beginning to understand that everything about these Deathworlders defied normal expectations. The Defender closed to optimal firing range. Captain Parker gave the order his crew had been waiting for. "Fire all weapons. Show these monsters what human engineering can do." The ship's main kinetic cannon fired first, sending a tungsten rod racing toward the lead Vex destroyer at 30% of light speed. The projectile punched completely through the alien ship, creating a tunnel of vaporized metal and organic matter. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as its bioplasma containment systems failed. The second Vex ship tried to retreat, but a spread of nuclear missiles caught it before it could escape. The warheads detonated in sequence, each explosion tearing away more of the creature ship's living hull until nothing remained but expanding gas and debris. The third destroyer, seeing the fate of its companions, attempted to ram the human vessel in a desperate suicide attack. Major Danny Brooks, watching from the Marine Bay, actually laughed. "These idiots think they can out-crazy humans," he told his troops. "They have no idea what species they're dealing with." Captain Parker waited until the last possible moment before ordering a point-blank torpedo launch. The Vex ship, committed to its ramming course, could not avoid the weapon. The torpedo punched through its hull and detonated inside the command section, killing the crew instantly. The entire engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds. 3 Vex destroyers had been reduced to wreckage without inflicting any damage on the human ship. Aboard the Crystal Wing, the Zephrian crew sat in stunned silence. They had watched the peaceful species they knew become apex predators in mere minutes. The humans had not just defeated their enemies, they had destroyed them with a casual efficiency that spoke of countless generations of warfare. "Commander," Lethera, Captain Parker's voice came through the communicator. "We're going to establish a joint command center aboard your ship. It's time to plan the liberation of your world." An hour later, human and Zephrian officers met face-to-face for the first time. The cultural shock was immediate and profound. The Zephrians were tall, graceful beings who moved like dancers, while the humans were compact, muscular creatures who walked like predators ready for a fight. Dr. Helen Carter, who joined the mission as a cultural advisor, documented every interaction. She watched Zephrian officers flinch when Major Brooks demonstrated how human weapons worked. And she saw human Marines struggle to understand a species that had never experienced violence. "The tactical situation is straightforward," Major Brooks explained, pointing to a holographic display of the planet. "The Vex have approximately 50 ships in orbit and 500,000 ground troops spread across your major cities. They're conducting what we call ethnic cleansing, systematically hunting down and killing your civilian population." Commander. Lethera translated the human military terms for her officers, many of whom became physically ill when they understood the concepts being discussed. "What do you recommend?" she asked. "Direct assault," Brooks replied without hesitation. "We hit their fleet first to establish space superiority, then deploy ground forces to protect your civilians and eliminate Vex ground troops." "But Captain," protested Zephrian engineer Zareth, "you have only 1 ship against 50. How can you possibly win?" Lieutenant Commander Jackson smiled grimly. "Because they're not expecting to fight someone who shoots back. Every species they've conquered before has been peaceful. They've never faced weapons designed by predators for use against other predators." As the planning session continued, news arrived that changed everything. Dr. Rodriguez intercepted a Vex, communication that made every human in the room go very quiet. "What does it say?" Commander Lethera asked, noticing the change in atmosphere. "The Vex commander has ordered his ground forces to begin targeting refugee camps and medical centers," Rodriguez translated. "He thinks he can force us to retreat by threatening civilians." The silence that followed was broken by Major Brooks speaking in a voice colder than deep space. He just made the biggest mistake of his miserable alien life. Captain Parker activated his communicator to contact Admiral Morrison back on Earth. "Admiral, we have a situation here that requires authorization for the Terra Protocol." Even across 1,200 light-years, the significance of that request was clear. The Terra Protocol was humanity's most extreme military doctrine, the complete and total destruction of any force that deliberately targeted non-combatants under human protection. "Authorized," came Morrison's reply. "Show them why humans don't negotiate with child killers." Commander Lethera had never seen expressions like the ones that appeared on human faces when they learned about the Vex targeting civilians. She finally understood that these Deathworlders possessed something her peaceful species lacked, the capacity for righteous fury. "Captain Parker," she said quietly, "what is the Terra Protocol?" "It means no prisoners, no mercy, no negotiation," Parker replied. "It means we hunt down every single Vex in this system and eliminate them completely. When other predator species hear what happened here, they'll think twice before threatening species under human protection." The Defender moved toward the main Vex fleet with new determination. In the ship's marine bay, Major Brooks addressed his troops over the intercom. "Marines, we came here to help some peaceful aliens who asked for our protection. Now we've learned that these Vex bastards are deliberately targeting civilians, women, children, anyone too weak to fight back. That makes this personal. The battle for Kepler 442b was about to begin, and it would become the stuff of legend. The Vex had made the fatal mistake of believing that all intelligent species were as peaceful as the ones they had conquered before. They were about to discover what happened when apex predators from a death world decided that enough was enough. On the planet's surface, Vex ground forces received new orders from their fleet commander. Begin the systematic execution of all remaining Zephrian civilians. Use the deaths to force the unknown ship to retreat. High above them, the EU's defender prepared to teach the galaxy a lesson that would echo through history. Some species evolved to create art and beauty. Others evolved to explore and discover. But humans had evolved to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. The Vex Collective had spent 3 centuries conquering peaceful civilizations without resistance. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler 44, delegates from 47 species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation on the world of Harmony Prime. The emergency session had been called to discuss the most significant event in galactic history since the Federation's founding, the arrival of humanity. Ambassador Claire Washington sat at the newly installed Earth delegation table, listening to the heated debate through her translation device. Beside her, Commander Lithera served as humanity's advocate, a role that would have been unthinkable before the Zephrian rescue. The humans are too dangerous, declared Ambassador Quelvon of the Venturi, his blue skin darkening with agitation. They destroyed an entire Vex fleet without suffering a single casualty. They turned 50 warships into space dust in less than 6 hours. What happens when they decide we are their enemies? Ambassador Rilter of the Helix species stood to respond. You forget, honored colleague, that the Vex were conducting genocide against the Zephrians. Without human intervention, an entire civilization would have been wiped out while we debated proper diplomatic procedures. The debate had been raging for days. Some species, led by the scholarly Venturi, argued that humanity was too violent and unpredictable to join galactic civilization. Others, particularly those who had lost colonies to Vex raids, saw humanity as the protectors they had desperately needed. Ambassador Washington listened patiently to the arguments she had heard dozens of times. The galaxy was struggling to understand. What humans represented a species that had evolved on a world so hostile that violence and warfare were woven into their DNA, yet who used that capacity only to protect the innocent. If I may address the assembly, she said, rising from her seat. The hall fell silent as delegates turned to look at the human representative. I understand your concerns about my species. We are different from you. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We developed weapons not for conquest, but for survival. She gestured to a holographic display showing Earth's violent history. Yes, we have fought wars among ourselves. Yes, we have made terrible mistakes. But we have also learned that our strength means nothing unless we use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Ambassador Zethera of the Christian Collective, a species of living gemstone beings, chimed in harmony to ask a question. But how do we know you will not turn these weapons against us? How can we trust predators? From a death world? Commander Lithera stood gracefully, her translucent wings catching the light. Honored delegates, 3 months ago, my people were dying while crying for help. Every species in this assembly heard our distress calls. Every one of you decided. We were beyond saving, only the humans answered. She activated a recording that filled the hall with her own voice from that desperate day. We are dying, our world burns. Please, someone help us. The sound of explosions and screaming could be heard in the background. The humans traveled 1,200 light years to fight monsters they had never seen, to protect people they had never met, for no reward except the knowledge that innocent lives would be saved. If that is what you call dangerous, then I pray the galaxy finds more such dangers. The hall erupted in discussion as delegates argued among themselves. Some species feared humanity's military capabilities, while others recognized the unprecedented act of self-sacrifice the humans had performed. Federation Chancellor Mordain, an ancient being whose species had founded the Federation 3,000 years ago, called for order. The question before us is clear. Do we accept humanity as a member species, or do we ask them to leave our space? Ambassador Washington stood again. Chancellor, with respect, that is not the only question. Whether you accept us or not, Humanity. We'll continue to respond to distress calls from peaceful species under attack. We will continue to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The only question is whether we do this as partners or as outsiders. In the weeks that followed, the debate continued across dozens of worlds. Dr. Paul Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's chief xenolinguist, published his groundbreaking study Understanding Deathworld Psychology, which became required reading for all Federation diplomats. The study explained how species from hostile environments developed protective instincts that extended beyond their own kind. While most galactic species had evolved in peaceful environments where cooperation was the key to survival, humans had learned that sometimes violence was necessary to protect the innocent. Meanwhile, on Kepler-442b, the first human Zephrian Joint Academy was under construction. Captain Steve Parker, promoted to admiral after the battle, worked with Zephrian architects to design a facility where peaceful species could learn basic self-defense while humans studied alien science and culture. Major Danny Brooks, now Colonel Mott, ran the military training programs with patience that surprised everyone who knew him. He spent his days teaching Zephrian volunteers how to handle weapons and think tactically, while learning Zephrian meditation techniques that helped human soldiers deal with combat stress. "It's strange," he told Dr. Helen Carter during one of her cultural studies interviews. "I've spent my whole career learning how to fight and kill. Now I'm teaching pacifists how to protect themselves. But you know what? They're teaching me things too. Their meditation methods are helping my Marines recover from battle trauma better than anything we've tried before." The cultural exchange was producing unexpected benefits throughout both societies. Zephrian technology was advancing human medicine by centuries, while human strategic thinking was revolutionizing Zephrian scientific research. But the real change was happening across the galaxy as word spread about what had occurred at Kepler-442b, the Vex Collective. Their expansion halted. For the first time in their history, retreated to the galactic rim. Other aggressive species that had been eyeing Federation worlds suddenly found more peaceful pursuits. The galaxy was learning that peaceful species now had protectors who understood that some things were worth fighting for. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Federation held its final vote on human membership. Ambassador Washington sat in the Great Hall, knowing that the decision would shape the future of both humanity and galactic civilization. Chancellor Mordain called for order as the votes were counted. The motion to grant full membership to the human species of Earth passes by a margin of 38-9. "Welcome to the Galactic Federation, Ambassador Washington." The hall erupted in a mixture of cheers and nervous whispers. Humanity was now officially part of galactic civilization. But many species still weren't sure what that meant. The answer came with the signing of the Terra Accords 3 days later. The agreement established humanity as the Federation's official peacekeeping force. Other species would provide technology, resources, and expertise, while humans would handle military threats that exceeded diplomatic solutions. "This is not about conquest or dominance," Admiral Parker explained to the assembled delegates. "This is about ensuring that what happened to the Zephrians never happens to anyone else." The galaxy is a big place with many peaceful species, but it also has predators who see peaceful civilizations as easy prey. Those predators now need to understand that peaceful species have guardians. The ceremony concluded with Commander Lithara delivering words that would be carved into monuments across the galaxy. "We cried for help, not knowing who would answer. The Deathworlders came, and they showed us that sometimes violence in defense of the innocent is the highest form of compassion." As the delegates dispersed to their homeworlds, the galaxy began to change in ways both subtle and profound. Research. Vessels now carried human security teams. Trade routes previously abandoned due to pirate attacks were reopened under human protection. Species that had cowered in fear of aggressive neighbors began to rebuild and expand. The Federation's first joint military academy opened on Luna, Earth's moon, where officers from peaceful species learned tactics and strategy, while human cadets studied alien science and diplomacy. The program produced a new generation of defenders who understood that strength without wisdom was meaningless. but wisdom without strength was helpless. Dr. Rodriguez established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding, which became the galaxy's premier research center for studying how different evolutionary backgrounds shaped species behavior. His work helped bridge the gap between peaceful civilizations and the one-year protectors who now stood guard over them. Years passed, and the galaxy settled into a new normal. Pirates and raiders found their prey defended by humans who fought. With the fury of those protecting family, aggressive species learned to resolve disputes through negotiation, rather than risk awakening the wrath of Deathworld guardians, the Vex. Collective eventually made the mistake of attacking a human colony directly. The Federation's response was swift and absolute. Admiral Parker led a fleet of human and allied vessels that hunted down every Vex ship in known space. The message was clear. Some lines should never be crossed. As the first decade of human membership drew to a close, Chancellor Mordain stood before the Federation Assembly for his farewell address. When the humans first arrived, many of us feared they would change us. We were right to fear this, but wrong about how.